listening. So how are you ladies doing today?
We're doing all right.
How's your improvements down there? Did they ever get the electrical and your
Still in
additional?
the process of electrical. I was gonna put a message into Shannon, so we need to make sure that gets wrapped up here in the next week or so. Just because we're diving into the elections, but that's going on. We're gonna talk a little bit about next steps and everything that we would like to see happen too. So, but so far we are very pleased and very grateful, so thank you.
Very good.
And we have heard that we will be having heat soon in our other room.
I know.
They were
Great.
Yes.
Moving right into the modern world.
We are, yes, and there'll even be a fancy control on the wall that we can turn and control.
Oh, we'll have to put a box over that. You guys can't touch that.
That's all right, we're just glad that there's an option for
Okay, Amy, we on?
All right. Good. All right. We have provided you with a series of documents, and if you don't have them, I have brought additional copies. One is our budget rationale. The other is it's kind of it's our 4-year look back that has all of the requests on the right-hand side for 2020. And the reason we provide this is because we are very cyclical. Our budget requirements are much different in a presidential election year versus a off-year election year like 2019. So it doesn't, at least in our estimation, make sense to compare 2019 to 2020.
Exactly.
Because that's just not gonna work.
You have to have like a 5-year forecast or something, so you can at least touch both.
Right.
Okay.
I've also provided a copy of a list of office improvements. Also a copy of Frank LaRose's Directive 2019-08, which deals with cybersecurity. And I also provided a confidentiality and non-disclosure agreement. You should have all of those items in your packet. Going to the budget, the 2020 budget request, initially, the officials line is statutorily mandated, so whatever, it is what it is. We currently don't have enough money in our budget line for 2019 to pay for that increase. I assume that will come from somewhere. We are asking for, and our board is asking for a 3% increase in our employee salary for next year. The Social Security Administration has estimated that a cost of living increase for 2020 will be 2.6%, with an average wage increase of 4.7%. So 3% is in line with national numbers. This is the second year we're asking for an increase in our precinct election officials' pay. We asked for this last year and that was not granted. The last time we had an increase was in 2009, 10 years. So they work very long days. We're asking for a $10 increase. That brings us closer in line with what our surrounding counties are doing, and I've listed the counties and what they're paying.
I'm surprised there is such a variance amongst the 88 counties. I would think that would be
standard.
Yeah.
It would be nice if it was standardized, because unfortunately that's what we hear many times, because there's such a transient community. We get people from Summit County, from Cuyahoga County that start working for us, and they're like, this is all you pay? When I was working in Summit or Cuyahoga, I was making this amount. Which when you break it down by the hours that they're working, it's really not a lot per hour. I think when we did that, it was about $9.23 an hour. So
it boils down to about minimum wage practically.
For a very long day of a very important job that they're doing for us.
And we do have difficulty in getting precinct election officials, as I'm sure you all are aware. So, we're hoping that an additional $10 will make the difference.
Do you ever think they'll go to, because I noticed it seems like a lot of the older folks are no longer willing to do it, because it's too long of a day. Do you ever see them trying to break that day into 2 shifts?
It would be very difficult, unfortunately, because then what do you do when somebody forgets or doesn't show up? And that person who maybe started the day then is stuck working the whole day and didn't plan on it. Our fear would be we would lose people midday and not have somebody to replace them, and statutorily, we have to have a replacement. So in some ways, we think that could be a bigger detriment to us.
In addition to the fact that we would have to have double the number of
Workers then.
Of workers.
Yeah. Well, no, I just wonder if it was would ever be an option, because a detriment to replace half a day is not as bad as someone not showing up and replacing the whole day. That's why I'm just
You
wondering.
still have to replace no matter what.
Because when I called my list, that's one of the things, it's like, I can't do it anymore, it's just too long of a day.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
Yes.
What we're actually seeing is states that are going more into vote by mail, and embracing vote by mail and pushing vote by mail a lot more to try to help in some instances. We'll see where that goes in Ohio, if it does reach us.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys know that the 10 additional dollars would be, that's the barrier to recruiting people?
I don't know that $10 is the magic number, but we have been told by other people that, gosh, we've been doing this, we haven't, they know, they keep
Yeah.
track. We haven't had an increase since 2009. And the things that they're required to do now, even though the setup is a shorter period of time, but we have, new equipment, the electronic poll books is a new thing, so they've had to be trained on a lot of new things, and they're just not being compensated for that additional work, so.
And can I just ask, is
Sure.
the 266, is that amount is all for election day
No.
poll workers? Okay.
No,
how does
so
work
that
out?
election workers line includes all of our part-time workers, our full-time, part-time, our part-time workers. So that includes people who work in our office before election day, the people who staff the early absentee polling location, our people who deliver the equipment, our L&A people, people who pick up the equipment, set up the equipment, so that includes everybody except for our board members and the full-time staff. So that's why, they increase it.
Too, those
They got an increase, I believe, last year or the year before, so we feel that they're good, to go for, probably a year or two. But, that's why we're asking for the PEOs, because we haven't moved them along.
What does that equate to in dollars for an increase in your budget? then?
Little
Since it's,
little shy of $3,000.
Okay, Dickie's will ask, sorry, just saw it.
What does APP stand for?
APP.
It's in the heading, it's request and APP
Oh, appropriated.
appropriated, okay.
Are there any more questions on election workers? So regarding overtime, it's important to, if you look at the overtime over the 2019 appropriation versus our request, you may be like, but you need to look at what we actually spent in 2016, which was $104,000. The difference between the $104,000 and the $119,000 are the pay increases that people have received. Okay,
Would it make sense to hire somebody?
hire somebody for what?
Well, rather than all this overtime? Because you could have
So the
somebody all
ov-
year long with this amount of money, right?
So the
It
problem.
wouldn't be just one person, it would be 2 people, because remember, we run even DNR. And when we're out of election mode, our staff can handle our daily activities. It's just at that
cheaper,
election
actually.
season when we have our mandated extra hours and
Yes.
extra workflow, that when you start adding in, okay, that's 2 employees, now we're paying benefits and everything else, it probably isn't as cost effective. It's
And
just
it
the
won't really
overtime.
solve our problem
Mm-mm.
because it's more of we need bodies versus 2 people.
Mhm.
So we will balloon up, in a general presidential election, last
Bless
election,
you.
we had, 20 to 30 additional people working, per day for
Yeah.
like the week before the election. So, hiring a couple of people is just,
Wouldn't be the answer.
no.
Not the appropriate one for us at this time.
We did, include an employee payout, we have somebody
Can I,
who's.
back to the
Oh,
overtime?
absolutely.
Why are you, what's the calculation on the 14,000 above the 2016 amount?
So because of, pay increases between 2016
To 220.
and 2020, that's the dollar amount.
Okay.
So it's the same amount, I estimated the same amount of hours that we worked in 2016 for 2020, but because people have had pay increases, that's where that 14,000 is coming from.
Okay.
Okay. We do have somebody retiring, so we included an employee payout. Advertising, we're asking for an increase of 1,000, because we're gonna have to advertise for that position.
That gave me a little bit of pause. Is
Okay.
that typical cost for us on an employment?
To advertise, you mean?
That seemed high to me.
We have to put it in the paper,
And it's a Sunday paper ad, which our ad is quite large for employment.
Is that required?
It is a
Sunday
requirement from
ad?
And the ad size is a requirement.
so
It's not just
Sunday
a-
is just
It's
when
not
most
a
people
little
are looking for employment ads. Most of the employment ads are in Sunday's paper, but, and I don't know that it costs any more to put it in
You
on
know
Sunday,
what,
but.
maybe you guys could check with Janet to see if we get any special rates or anything, cause we do advertise a lot. Just to see, cause yeah, it does seem expensive, but I do know Sunday is very expensive, and depending on how many columns and stuff,
Right.
you're looking at $400 or $500 for one run, and then if you run it, but I was just gonna recommend maybe check with Janet Kovac to see if, if she gets any, cause we do advertise a
Right,
lot,
yeah.
sometimes they'll do a break, but.
Do that. Postage, the dollar amount is higher than it was in 2016 for a couple of reasons. One is the postal rates have gone up by 11%. The other thing is we are finding that our trends are that more people are voting by mail, requesting absentee ballots, and so our numbers are going up, and that's why we've asked for that additional there. So voter registration system and professional and technical services, we've asked for additional monies. And this really comes down to the security directive, which was forwarded to you. So under voter registration, we've asked for 20,000 additional, and professional and technical services, we've asked for 30 additional. 1,000. And we will talk with you a little bit more about what our cybersecurity requirements are. Also asked for money for equipment in the amount of $80,000 for we have card bearers, which are from, like post-Civil War almost, but we need to replace them. And we've been told by the person who fixes them that he can't get replacement parts, new parts, so he's like, scavenging them off of ones that aren't being used. So, we would need to we have two now. We've been looking at car bearer vendors, and we should be able to go to one and still have the capacity that we need, but that is, why we're asking for, the sums there. We want to thank the commissioners for the improvements that have been made to our office space. They're in the process of working on upgrading our electric, which will be fabulous. And I believe a new HVAC unit has been placed. So we'll actually have heating and cooling in our training room, which is it was also good.
Stepping up in the world.
We were able to obtain, some map drawers from regional planning, so we are putting those things to good use.
How is that working out for you, those drawers? Are they
Very
nice?
nice, they're
They
nice
are
drawers.
nice, yeah.
I'm just happy we were able to
Get
take
those.
advantage of that.
Well, I'm glad you guys were able to go and take advantage too, because those are expensive.
They're very
They are.
expensive, which has always held us off, and being able to take them from another department who wasn't gonna use them was very beneficial, I think, for all of us,
Good.
so.
We would like to continue with the renovations that we have requested. Specifically, we have a non-compliant counter. So that needs to be addressed, as well as providing the staff with larger cubicles for their workspace. They just don't have enough, whatever, they just don't
Kids
have
have
enough
a-
workspace.
Old style desk, but it's not as.
We have the
big or
old
looking.
style desks, and many times, like when we're doing petitions, it requires 2 employees to be at that desk, which makes it even more cramped and hard to work and do the work that needs to be done at those desks.
We had talked about your countertop, looking about taking one section and just
Mhm.
dropping it down like the banks do for
Yes.
88 or 80 compliance. Did anyone get any quotes or anything?
Yeah, so
Yes.
we've been working with
Mhm.
Friends,
Okay.
office
office
supply,
supply. Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And so they have provided us with a layout that we believe would work for us. And so we have requested, pricing from them, we're just waiting for that, and then we, at that point, I presume, would talk to Joanne, about that. We also had somebody come in from the Department of Homeland Security, it's probably been a couple of months now, which is one of the requirements under the directive, to look at our physical security concerns, and he was like, not happy. Because of the way our doors are situated, I mean, he was proposing that our doors be locked at all times and that we have a camera and buzz people in. We're not in favor of that, because we are a public, whatever, we deal with the public on a regular basis. But he did say, so if the situation were such that there was an active shooter, we would all be dead. Because there's no way for us to lock that door without walking around the counter and locking it physically.
Welcome to our world.
Right. So there are some security concerns that he raised, with us. He has sent us a report, we are going through that report. Many of the things are kind of easy fixes, like the doors. So like our not the outside door, but the internal doors, like somebody could break into our tabulation room without too much of an issue. And there's lots of other security concerns that, we will be providing that report to, the plan was to send it to Joanne. If you'd like to see that, we would absolutely.
Is it not like a security, like metal style door? They're like old wood doors that they could kick in?
Yes.
and-
Oh, yeah, they're like,
Yes.
As old as
plywoody.
the building, probably.
They are probably the original doors, honestly.
And they're probably hollow too,
Yes,
so it
they
doesn't
are.
take a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more about the cybersecurity directive, but part of that is working with Homeland Security, because elections is now listed as a critical infrastructure for the federal government. And so one of our many requirements was for Homeland Security to come in and do both a physical and a security assessment, for the ability for individuals to, while we are out of the office or while we're on a lockdown, for individuals to penetrate our office and to receive access to our ballots and our programming equipment and things of that nature. So it's much further than even just the physical security, but actually securing our data and our information that we do contain in our office, so.
So I think that brings us to cybersecurity, and there are quite a few details that we would like to speak with you that may not be appropriate for an open meeting.
Well, we took a look at the non-disclosure agreement that you sent, and is now the time to discuss, what are the issues that you're looking to discuss?
So we don't believe that you guys are aware of the seriousness of our current situation.
Okay. Is
And
this
there-
the non-disclosure agreement discussion that you're
Part
looking
of
to
it
have?
is-
Because I thought we may want to take some time, we just got that in our
Mhm.
packet 2 days ago, so.
It was forwarded last week, but
Yeah.
I understand that, but it may affect the budgeting that concern, budgeting issues for not just our department, but other departments.
And there is, when we talk with the Secretary of State's directive, there's one component that's a very general and vague component, which we shared with you in your packets that we can give. The remainder, which actually gives you the nuts and bolts of the requirement from the Secretary of State's office, that is protected. It's under a level of federal classification that without a non-disclosure agreement, we are not able to share that with any entity. Even our vendors have been signing the non-disclosures, we have to sign those back and forth amongst ourselves as we are sharing information. So that's part of,
Are other counties doing this?
yes, that is a requirement for all 88 counties.
The Secretary of State was required,
Well,
yes.
Yeah.
That's actually a template from them.
this was forwarded to Chris Maduri, and he did have one comment on it, and that he would like to have, he would recommend, section D be removed, a portion of it.
So that is something
That
we
is
don't
under
have the
two,
authority to
page
do.
2, yeah. Yeah, cause he said it could be approved, but there is one term that ideally would be better left omitted, and that is the top of page 2. Section D, last sentence that reads, additionally, in the
If
event
you were
that the
to
Portage County Commissioners breach its obligations under this agreement, all legal remedies, including damages arising directly or indirectly from the breach, and reasonable attorney fees and costs will be available to the Board of Elections. For some reason, he said that term could be deleted, that would be real good, and the balance would
But
be
you're saying you don't
approved as
have the
formed.
authority to do that?
I thought you were going to strike the whole thing.
No, it's just that
Just
at the
that.
top of the second page, if you could check on that, cause that's what the prosecutor's recommending to us. But the rest of it, he said approved to form, meaning he was fine, if we're fine with it, but that's the only one, starting with faith additionally.
Yep.
My understanding was you have materials you wanted to share with us if we signed the non-disclosure agreement including in advance. I think it would be better for us to have a little time to look at those and then have a discussion, unless my impression is.
I mean, obviously, you can do whatever you wish. Our concern is that you are not aware of the current situation.
And that's why you wanna go into
And
executive
that's why I
session.
wanna go into
An
the executive
executive
session,
session.
so you are aware, and it may or may not affect how you budget for next year. Not just for our department, but for other departments in the county. And some of the stuff we can tell you without the non-disclosure, but we won't be able to tell you everything.
But yeah, just with that, okay.
Yeah.
One question I would have for the board is, this keeps you from discussing these items even with your own staff, unless you want your staff added as part of these agreements.
Yeah, we would want our staff added.
And we can't, as long as they were to sign, we don't
Yeah,
have
I
an
don't
issue with
care.
that. It just,
Yeah.
we just
Yeah.
need non-disclosures from anybody who sees the restricted documentation.
Oh, okay. So we would have to add then, like, our budget and finance person, and I'm assuming with Joanne too, our internal services.
And we have no problem with that, just as long as we have an NDR from them.
Do you guys think of anyone else that we would wanna add to this?
Has Lloyd signed one?
He has,
Yes.
as
Okay.
it's his department,
Yeah, his department is covered.
So-
because we've been working actually with them.
Okay,
Because,
good.
I mean, you're gonna wanna have that involved.
Yeah. Is there anyone else, Todd, that maybe we're missing besides you and Joanne?
That would be all I can think of.
Okay.
I just wanna flag what I was talking about. I'm looking at an email that came from you guys, and it says, since we would like to discuss in detail with the commissioners the technical provisions of the directive, we need to have each commissioner sign the attached non-disclosure agreement if the signed agreements are received prior to our Thursday meeting, we will provide technical documents to the commissioners so they have a chance to look through them prior to our meeting. So I'm referencing that and wondering if we should wait a week to have that discussion based on what you shared with us.
So there are really two pieces. One is the current status of the county's
So you'd like, you
infrastructure.
see a two-part discussion,
Yes.
and one we
And
could have
second-
today, and one
Right,
based on
exact-
some of these documents,
Yes.
we could have, okay,
Yes.
that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
So do we wanna go into executive
Yeah.
session? Okay.
But I'm not sure, what would that be under? Security?
Security. Be under the security section. So it would be under, let me see here.
Matters required to be kept confidential by federal law.
Yeah, there's a security, oh, it's 6.
Oh, 6.
Details relative to security arrangements.
Let me interrupt, we do have a 10:30 scheduled, so I'm wondering if we shouldn't
These are
table
10:30.
the it's our next budget presentation.
Oh, Brad. Will
We
it
could
take you
actually
more than 5
probably,
minutes?
this portion we could probably do within about 5
Yeah.
minutes,
Okay.
actually.
And that's all you have left with your
Yeah,
budget
that's it, we
presentation?
want to
Okay.
cover the budget
Okay.
Let's go ahead
first.
and do it.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
that if you wait it. Okay, I will make a motion to go in executive session for G6 on details relative to security arrangements for a public body or public office.
Second.
Roll call, Amy?
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Yes.
Do